Today we will finish. We have to do securities, and then we will start the financial analysis part. Right? I have 15 people. Right. Hope you have this handout. This is the, though it says credit management lecture 3, that is the security one. Right? It should read as 4th one. Okay. Under security, can all hear me properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. When we consider security in lending, we have two schools of thinking. Firstly, they say security is not necessary. It is the willingness and the ability to pay which will secure the credit risk. Right? So first school of thought is you don't need any hard security or any sort of collateral. The ability to repay and the willingness to repay is the main security you have against the credit risk. That's the first one. Second one is you need to have some sort of a hardcore security or guarantee or something to cushion the credit risk, right? So that's the two schools. First one is you don't need security if you have the willingness and the ability, that is good as security for your credit risk. Whereas the second school of thought, they say you need some sort of a security for different kind of credit risk. Right? So those are the two schools we have, right? This what I discussed just now. And then what is security? It is an insurance against the credit risk, right? That means security can be anything. It can be property, it can be personally guaranteeing the thing, or as a company you can guarantee. So security is something which you can call upon when the customer stop paying. When there is a credit risk, you can call upon. So it is a basically insurance. What is the insurance? On an unforeseen event, you need to have a cushion, right? You die. If you have a life cover, you will get some money for the others to live. You have a medical insurance. You become sick, they will pay you, right? So that is a cushion. So similarly, why security? If the customer does not pay you, you can call upon that security or seize that security, sell and recover your money. Because we are lending others money. We are lending depositors money. Right? Can you remember this? How the banks are funded? CASA, TMD, term loans, sorry, money market, and this is capital, which is the owner's funds. Except for this, right, all other things are others' money, right? So you use this money to lend, right? So you have a responsibility to collect that money back. So on lending, the main risk is credit risk. We take security as a cushion to avoid any credit risk. So security can be property or other asset that a borrower offers a lender to secure a loan. It can be a property or it can be other assets. It can be a land, it can be a stock, it can be debtors or anything. If the borrower stops making the promised loan payment, the lender can seize the collateral to recoup its losses. Lender can seize the asset, sell it, and collect your money which you lent. Right? So it's the same thing. Given the lender the right to seize and sell those assets designated as loan security using the proceeds of the sales to cover what the borrower did not pay back. So that's the same thing. And the other part is when you have security, you have the banker has a psychological advantage over and above the borrower. Why? He has kept something valuable to him as a guarantee of repayment to the bank. See, he has given his residential property as security for the bank. If he does not pay, bank can seize that asset or take over that asset and sell. So he has a moral obligation and a psychological pressure to protect the asset which he has given to us. Right? So psychological advantage over the borrower. When security is there, normally lending rates are low. Right? Look at this way. Talk about the credit card. What is the rate they charge? Currently it is 18 to 24% we charge. Look at the TOD, 24 to 30% we can charge. But look at a housing loan, 9, 9.5, 10, 11, not more than that now. Because it is secured by a property. Right? All other things which I told you are plain basis facilities. So we say that is the higher the risk, higher the return, lower the risk, lower the return. Risk return trade-off. Right? Because it is clean, so it is high risk, so you are charging high. Housing loans, your risk is low because you have a cushion for the credit risk. So we consider the risk is low. Therefore, you can't charge very high rates. You have to charge low rate. So cost becomes lower when they offer security. Right? Categorization of collateral. Collateral, like any security, hard security, this is not the secondary securities like guarantees, corporate guarantees, personal guarantees, those things. Right? Let me go to the board. Security can be of two types. Two types. Hard or primary security. Soft security or secondary. Right? So land, building, machinery, anything comes under this. Right? Second type is personal guarantees, corporate guarantees, right? Where if the customer does not pay, we can call upon. Right? There is no hard security here. This is a hard security. You have land, building, stocks, anything. Right? Soft security secondary, those are personal guarantees and corporate guarantees. So categorization of securities. I will tell you two things. When it takes risk, this is time. Risk. Right? So you can see the three diagrams, time versus risk, right? This way. Okay. Question to you is, which diagram is correct? First one, second one, or third one? Can I see answers? With time, risk increases. With time, risk decreases. With time, risk remains the same. 1, 2, or 3. I have 17 people in the class. Can I see? With time, risk increases. That is the first graph. With time, risk decreases. That is the second graph. With time, risk remains the same. That is the third graph. Text me. I have 2, 1, 2. With time, risk decreases. I have 3. That means risk remain the same. Third answer is I have 1. I have 3 ones. That means with time, risk increases. Again a 2. With time, risk decreases. With time, risk decreases. Third 2. So I have 1, 2, 3 of 2s, 3 1s, and 1 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4 1s, 5 1s. Only 11 people answered. Right. Correct answer is this one. With time, risk increases. Yes. Look at a bus, right? Look at any vehicle. Today, you bring a new vehicle. For few years, you don't have any issues. You just run the vehicle. Then gradually, issues started coming up. Your expenses to the vehicle start coming in, right? Maintenance comes in. So you have to spend. So if you have given a lease to this vehicle, first few years, you don't have much risk because no issues. So vehicle can run and they will pay you. Then they have to use the cash flows to do the maintenance and running and all those things. Then repayment will have issues, right? Because future, we can't predict 100% clearly. We don't know when another flood comes in, right? Today, we know that there is no floods in Colombo. But maybe after a year, there can be a flood in Colombo. We don't know. Then all the shops close. So income comes down, right? Therefore, repayments will stop. See what has happened now. Who thought of a pandemic like this 1.5 years ago? Forget about March last year. Even November, we never thought we will have an issue. Even up to March, we never thought COVID will come to Sri Lanka. Right? So suddenly everything happens. Tourism industry down, entire economy is down. We can't believe the dependence on tourism industry for our country. Right? So with time, all the parameters changes. So the risk increases. Right? Second graph says risk decreases. It can't happen. With time, always risk increases. Risk stays in the same level. No, it changes. Environment is changing. Right? Therefore, first graph is the correct one. Then we'll go to the categories of risk. We have this is time again. This is value. You have stable value security. Right? That means value of the security is remain the same. Can I see answer? Can you give me an example? Value of a security remains the same over time. I'll give you answers. You give me which one is correct. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? First one, land. Second one, stocks, like perishable stocks. Then machinery. Cash. Which one is stable security? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Land, stable. I got one answer. That is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Think. 1, 1.
1.
Always don't go with the herd. Okay, I have a 4 now. There is a different one. What about others? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. None. None too. Good. Good thinking. Right? None. You don't have answer, say none, right? Okay. I'm not putting you in trouble by okay. Thank you, Trini. I'm not putting you in trouble by asking you why none. You can't say none because these three security values of these three securities changes with time in 4 types, 4 different ways. The correct answer is cash, which is Tilini, you have told cash, right? That is true, but yes, what do you call? Purchasing power of cash decreases with time. Purchasing power, but 100,000 today is 100,000 after 2 years also. If you give me a 100,000 loan against a 100,000 deposit, so the deposit 100,000 remain the same. Loan may come down with the repayment. But what you can do with the 100,000 is different. I'm not talking about your purchasing power. This is the value, right? 100,000 today is same as 100,000 afterward. We are not bothered about the time value of money, right? We will look at those things later. On security cases, it is not the time value of money, right? Thank you for all the answers. Land value may inert or decrease. Okay, that I will answer later, Tilni. Right. Can you tell me which this is stable value? We call stable. Right? Can you tell me which one goes like this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now 4 is out. 4 out. You have 3 answers. Don't consider extreme cases. Give me now in general. Right? Okay, I have 2 answers. 1, 1, 3 answers. 1. Okay, Sanjeev. 1, 2, 3. 1. Okay. Yeah. So all are to 1. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I got 1 over the sum. Right. Yes, that's true. Land value normally, in general case, it increases. If it is not a asset bubble or due to unforeseen reasons, lands can be, value can come down. Like suddenly some sort of a flood started coming in or landslide started coming in. So in that case, the area's land value comes down. Right? So otherwise, land is called increasing value. Increasing value security. Right? Now land goes out. This is sorry. You can do like this. Which one out of these two, machinery or vehicle or whatever? This. This one. Both. I have 3, 3, 3, 2 and 3 both. I have both answers 2 and 3 answers. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I just one answer. So yes, answer is this one. Decrease in value. Decrease in value security. Right? This machinery. Right? Decrease in value security. With time, value of a asset decreases. With time, value of the asset decreases. Like machine, you purchase it today for 10 million rupees. After using for 5 years, you can't sell it for 10 million in general case. Right? Vehicle, you purchase a vehicle except for a Toyota vehicle, you can't sell it for the value you purchased it. So value decreases. Then your last one is fluctuating value. Right? Perishable stock or any stock for that, perishable stock, high-tech stocks. Like what is the value of iPhone 6 today? What is the value of iPod today? Right? Forget about iPhone 6, iPhone 7, 8. What is the value today? Which we used to purchase and today's value if you want to sell it. So it fluctuates. Right? You have a stock winter clothes. Right? Can you sell those winter clothes during summer period? No, it fluctuates. So normally stocks comes as fluctuating value security. This is fluctuating value. Fluctuating value security. These are the 4 categories of securities: increasing value, decreasing value, stable, and the fluctuating value. Right? So these are the categories. Right? Depreciating value, fluctuating value, stable, and appreciating value. If you go to slide number, page number 49, you will have the details, right? So these are the categories of securities. So this is a question. I have a 5 million loan. I will give you 5 million deposit or 15 million property. Which one do you prefer? One is cash. Second one is property. One, if you answer one, it is cash. Okay, thank you. Why not land? It is 15 million. Yes, thank you. Answer is one, because cash is a stable thing and it is easily liquidated. Though you have a high value land, liquidation of that is very low. Thank you, Tilly. Right? So that's why we prefer that. So stable value, though it is increasing, you have the problem of liquidating. Then we go to the attributes of security. First, what we did is categories of securities. Now it is the attributes of securities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attributes are there. You have details in page number 47, slide number 47. Marketability, that is the ability to sell fast, right? Think like this. You have a BMW and a Toyota Premium. Again, a question. BMW is 1, Toyota Premium is 2. Which one is marketable? 1 or 2? One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. Okay, good. Yeah. So that's the marketability. You have a land of 10 purchase in a urban area and a 20-acre coconut estate. Which one is marketable? 1 or 2? Yes, it is the 1. So it is the marketability of a asset. So when you take a security, you should think about the marketability, not the asset. Then the measurability or accessibility. You should be able to find the value, right? Like artistic values. You have a, like you have the Mona Lisa original painting. Some people may value it. Some people, it's just a painting for us, right? So there should not be any subjective matters when you have to measure or give a valuation. I have a case where this property was valued. It is a very old house, right? It is one of the Valauas from our king's time. Basically, in Sri Lanka, 90% of Valauas are in the hands of foreigners. Our people have sold them to foreigners, basically. So this land also went to a foreigner. So he came for facility with us, and the valuation came 22,000 per square feet, right? It's unbelievable. Then I asked the valuer why. It is the heritage value, it is this and that, right? So it is the measurability is subjective. That land, that property was brought over by a foreigner who is running similar 3 properties in the country, and he was, prior to the pandemic and the East attack, he was marketing this property per night for $500 because he was selling our history, right? It is from one of the Nilames, the last Nilames we had, and it was a great history he was selling. And the property had 8 rooms, and normally it is fully occupied, right? So measurability is very key. So whenever you have subjective matter, it is very difficult to give a valuation. So for someone else, that property does not value much. I have another case in Malawi, right? That property is very, it is not architectural, but it is artistic, right? So it had a huge value by the valuer. Then we had to take over, not we, another bank had to take over that property because I had a different land and specific land. It is a hotel, and they couldn't find a buyer. The value was 300 million on the initial valuation, but when they went to sell that property, they couldn't find a buyer because of this art. The value of 300 million came with all these artistic things, right? Which does not matter to many of the people. So they couldn't sell it for a long time. So when you are looking at a property, all the subject matter should not be given very high priority, right? Then the stability. Value should be stable. If it is fluctuating, you have to be careful. Stable security. Transferability. Whatever the property or whatever the asset you take as security, you should be able to transfer it. Because why we are taking security is when customer stop paying, we have to take over and sell, right? When selling, you need to transfer. It is three transfers, type of transfers. First one is ownership transfer. Second one, physical transfer. Third one, usage transfer. You take a BOI land. If you take over, giving it to someone else is very, very difficult. Transferring to someone else is very difficult. BOI should agree to the other party. It has to be a BOI company. That company should be able to run a similar business in that premises. Like that, you have a lot of restriction. So transferability is low. Take a commercial cement factory. You may have spent a huge amount, but transferability, because usage transfer, you won't be able to find many people who wants a cement factory. So usage transfer is very difficult. Consider huge machinery, right? If you want to sell it, and the machine has to be taken out from the land, if it is huge, you can't transfer it easily, physical transfer. So ownership transfer, physical transfer, and usage transfer. So all three needs to be considered and transferability. Then enforceability, ability to enforce the law and take over security. When you take over securities, when you take securities, sometimes some memorandum articles will restrict companies giving out security, some different securities. In that scenario, you go and take a security. When you want to take over the security, you will not be able to. Enforceability of law, right? Whether we can take over the property, right? There are some government laws restricting properties taking as securities, like this, what is Suvarna Bhumi Oppu, right? Then Devala Panatha. Like that, we have different laws in the country and different titles. You take a credit decisions and go ahead with them, but when you go for enforce the security clause, you are not in a position to do because it is not enforceable. Then the last one is absence of encumbrances. That means you should not have people who have taken part of the land, because you have 100 perch land, someone has taken out 1 perch, 2 perch. When you go to enforce your legal rights, there will be someone, we can't throw him out, right? He has been there when we took over the land as security, right? Or there are caveats placed, priority registrations. So when you go to execute your legal right, then these people will come and say, no, we had a concern about this land. So absence of encumbrances is a key requirement. So attributes of a good security are sixfold: marketability, ability to liquidate, ability to sell a property fast. We should be able to measure a security. Then stability of the value, transferability of the security if taken over, enforceability of our legal rights over security, and absence of encumbrances, right? Any questions on that? 6 types. Any questions?
Can you explain the last one again, if you don't mind?
Encumbrances?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It is like this. You can have properties where you have a caveat registered or a priority notice registered. When you go to search the property and the land registry, you can see the caveats, or someone has recorded the priority requirement, right? Sometimes we go and take it mortgage. When we want to go and do a legal execution of security, then the previous ones who has created the caveat or priority registration will have a say. We just can't ignore their requirement, right? So there should not be any blocking factors, right, in securities. That's what we call encumbrances. You have a big land, someone has come in and taken a part of the land. We ignore that and take legal action. We can't throw that person out. Illegally he has been. So we have to go to courts and do something. Then only we can throw him out. Though it is our own land, we can't do anything. Right? So that's what called encumbrances. Is it clear, Varuni?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? Right. Let's go to the other part then. Okay, this is security forever, easy to value, valuable, easy to charge, that is taking over mortgage or lien or whatever, realizable. We should be able to liquidate the asset faster, right? Ever is that easy to value, easily we should be able to value the property, and it has to have a value, then easy to charge and realizable. So this is what I spoke to you about earlier. The value of the security collateral gives sufficient margin over the amount of advance rate of. So that means whenever you are taking security, the security should have a higher value than the land. These are all general practices. Huh? You can take a decision and go even without security, or take just some security and go in. That is a credit call you take. But in general practice, always, if you want to give 10 million loan, you should take at least 15, 16 million property. Why? Though you have a for sale value, you have two things, market value and for sale value for any asset. What is market value? Market value is the value ongoing on the market. If I want to sell, like not in a hurry, I want to sell, then that is the market value. But for sale value, I want to sell a property or asset in a hurry, then you will have to discount. 15 million is the market value. If I want money fast, okay, I'll leave it for 12 million, 13 million. So that is the for sale value. So always there will be a discount when a bank goes to sell, right? Therefore, always you should have a higher margin over the facility you want to give. As I started, risk increases with time. Therefore, always consider increasing value securities for long-term facilities. Right? The best way is to link the risk and the value of nature of the collateral and the nature of the risk. That means if it is a long-term facility, you should have normally increasing value security. If it is a short-term facility, you can have fluctuating value, or you can have a decrease in value. Stable value goes for anything, right? So best practice to relate the nature of the collateral to the nature of the risk the bank has to undergo, right? That means if the risk is long term, go for increasing value. If the risk is short term, you can go with fluctuating value, increasing value, or decreasing value. Increasing value is better, but you can go with fluctuating or decreasing value as well. So you can have a combination of increasing value and decreasing value as well. Land and machinery you can take, but you should know normally long term risk increases. Different type of securities: immovable property, immovable machinery, and movable property, machinery, right? Details are there in the handout. You can go through leisurely. Immovable property is any property which can't be moved is called immovable property. So immovable properties are land, building. Land and building goes together. Why? The law in this country says anything grounded on the land goes with the land. Anything grounded. That means if it is fixed to the land permanently, it is goes with the land. Therefore, land and building go together. Immovable properties are land and building. Then comes immovable machinery. A machine which can't be easily moved. If the machine is nut and bolted to the ground, if it is fixed, it has to be considered as a immovable machinery. If it is on wheels and it can be moved easily, it is movable machinery. Then you can take motor vehicles as security. Then you have to have the certificate of registration. Then you need to have a mortgage bond. Then you should go and register it in the Register of Motor Vehicles, RMV, right? So when you come to immovable properties, you have real property, which is land, building, and personal properties, which are jewelry and those things, right? When it comes to immovable property, you need to take a mortgage and you have to go and register it in the land registry within 21 days, right? That is a public notification. Going and registering our mortgage bond is a public notification. So immovable properties, you have to take a mortgage, go and register in the land registry. Then immovable machinery also the same. Immovable and movable machinery, you take the mortgage and go and register in the land registry. But land registry has two books, land book and machinery book. So immovable machinery are registered under the machinery book. Land book is only for lands. So immovable property, which is the land and building, you go register in the land registry on the land book, and machinery part, you go and register in the machinery book, right? Then motor vehicles, you go and register in the RMV. Let us see. Yeah, these are the details. Benefit of having immovable properties. The value is not only stable, it appreciates in value. Bank has a solid legal right, is physically we know. Parat execution, which we will discuss later. That means without going to courts, we can take over the properties. Then this psychological advantage, what I was talking, easy to monitor. If it is a land, we know the land is there. Peace of mind for the banker. අරගෙන යන්න බෑ land එක කාටවත්. Consumer immovable property, time consuming process, value of the property may under exceptional circumstances could fall due to negligence on part of the mortgagor. Right? That is encumbrances occurs or maintenance was not done, something like that. Inability of the banker to find a suitable buyer, that is the marketability or the liquidation speed. Movable item, bank could create mortgage over variety of items which are categorized as movable, such as vehicles, scooters, all those things. Advanced machinery, it is immovable machinery and movable machinery, as I told you earlier. There's the two. Then motor vehicle, certificate of registration, valuation, mortgage bond, then RMV, history and insurance. So you go and register in the RMV, then only it is valid, because all the vehicles need to be registered the RMV. Then we come to the advance against stocks. Stock is the inventory or shares, both, right? It is two types, share mortgages and stock in trade is inventory, right? It is very high risk due to two reasons. Stocks values fluctuate. It is a fluctuating security. Then the stock value is with the customer. Stocks are with the customer. When the customer goes bad, do you expect him to hand over the stocks? Normally it won't happen, right? Therefore, physically stocks are with the customer. But in one instance, stocks are with the bank. Can I have a question. Just Tilini, what do you mean by what are the key areas to be studied in the exam? Which exam you are talking about? Exam which is going to be very soon or on your this subject? In that section, see, this is the syllabus I am covering, Tilini. They can ask anything. They can ask anything. I can't pinpoint and say you study this part, because I'm not the one who sets your paper, right? I have to cover and give you the knowledge. Okay. Sorry, I won't be able to pinpoint anything. Where were we? Forget. Yeah, I was asking, normally stocks are with customer. In one instance, stocks are with the bank. What is that instance and what is that product? We did the product last time. We have a product where the ownership lies with the customer, but possession lies with the bank. Possession is not with us when it is lease. There's only the ownership. Yes, paddy is the example I gave, but what is the product? Product in the sense financial product. Pledge loans, yes. LC is different. LC, again, not the possession, it is the documents with us, right? That is the ownership. But till we give out the documents, then ownership and all are with us. But once they LC claim, we can't do anything. Shouldn't the mortgage over vehicle register in land registry? No, we don't need to do that, right? We don't need to, because land vehicles, we have a separate place where we can register. So this is for public notification that this is mortgage to bank. So anyone can go and check. Right? It is a public notification. Land Registry or RMB. Okay. Hope I answered you. Right. So stocks, when you take a over stock, it is very risky because it is fluctuating, and again it is with the customer. We don't know. Right? So what we do, we take a floating mortgage because we can't pinpoint and say this is the stock we have mortgage, but we mortgage the value of the stocks, right? 50 million worth rice or whatever, right? Before doing the mortgage, you have to inspect the goods and you have to make sure that goods are in good quality and good status. Then you need to have a stock verification and stock statement signed by the customers. Then only you can take a mortgage. Then once you take the mortgage, you go and register in the land registry, right? That is the public place where we do. So when you are doing stock mortgages, we like, if it is a land mortgage, we may lend up to 70–80%. But when it comes to stock mortgages, we lend at a very low amount, that is 40–30, like that, right? So you have two words: floating lien, that is normal mortgage over the stocks, and floor planning, that is the pledge operation, right? In evaluating, how we evaluate timely manner, we calculate two things: inventory turnover, which we will learn very soon, inventory turnover, and resale of inventory, how fast they sell inventory and ability to sell, right? So the stocks then goes for advance against account receivable, that is the debtors, credit sales. That also a book entry. We know that the customers, they have, sorry, my customer has this much credit to be collected from the market, so we take a mortgage over that. What is the point in taking a debtors? You can't get hold of it. We're not sure about recoverability. Why? That is because we are taking mortgage over stocks and inventory, stocks, inventory, and the debtors. That is because it is the working capital, right? They have mortgage and taken money from us. If they don't pay us, we can go to courts and say they have misused the money which they should have given us. We have funded their working capital, but they have sold or collected that money and gone to another bank. We can go to courts on that grounds. That's why we take over these things. Otherwise, no point taking. Even, why are we asking you to check the crib when it is a cashback facility? What's the point in checking crib when it is cashback? It is because of this specific instance, right? If the stocks and debtors are financed by someone else, if it is mortgage, and the customer default that bank and collect that money and come to you and place a deposit and take a facility, right? That bank can, the previous bank can go to courts and say this the customer has misappropriated the funds which was supposed to come to us because his working capital items are mortgaged to us. Now the customer has taken out that money and gone to bank B and operating there. So that money belongs to us. There was one instance in Sri Lanka where a bank has taken that kind of approach. You have the option of going on that grounds. That's why the importance of this stock mortgages or debtor mortgages. Otherwise, you can't do anything with that. Right? Okay, no questions up to now. Personal guarantees. Then that's the secondary oath of security. Personal guarantees. Before taking personal guarantees, you should check the CRIP. In the CRIP, what the guarantors personal CRIP should direct and indirect both has to be clear. We say there is a customer. It's a question for you. I need an answer. I'm a customer who is coming to sign for guarantee. My direct CRIP, my all facilities are clean, perfect, green color. But whatever I have signed, given the personal guarantee, what is the personal guarantee? If the customer does not pay, I will pay. That is a personal guarantee. Right? But wherever I have signed, customers has gone bad and my indirect CRIP is red. Are you going to take a personal guarantee from me or not? My CRIP is perfect. Only my indirect CRIP. Direct CRIP is perfect. Indirect CRIP is not perfect. Are you going to take a guarantee from me? One answer, no.
No.
Two no's. Three. Why? I am paying my CRIP very good. I'm paying all my facilities. What happened to other people? Only 3, 4. Only 4, 5, 6. Okay. Yeah. Because when we are taking a personal guarantee, right? When we are taking a personal guarantee, what do you check? If my customer does not pay, this person, whom we are taking the guarantee, will pay or get us to assist us to collect from the customer, right? So on the personal guarantee, what they say, if the customer does not pay, we will pay. Personal guarantees are twofold, which is joint and severally guarantee. I am personally, individually guaranteeing, and as two parties, we are taking 2 or more personal guarantees normally. I am individually also responsible or jointly also responsible, right? If I sign a personal guarantee, I can't say I have guaranteed only 50% because there is another person. You go and collect the balance 50% from that person. You can't say that. If I have signed, bank has the discretion to come behind me or the other party. Bank can decide behind whom they are going to collect. If they can't collect the entire amount, only they can decide to go to other one. Or they can sue us directly, both parties together. So it is jointly and severally we are guaranteed. තනියෙන් හරි එකතු වෙලා හරි ගෙවනවා කියන එක තමයි guarantee වෙන්නේ. Right. Then it is the personal guarantee, joint and several. Where is the corporate guarantee? Right. Guarantee and indemnity. Right? Guarantee means I am guaranteeing if the customer does not pay, I will pay. Indemnity is I take the primary responsibility of paying. You don't need to wait till the customer to come and pay. I will pay. You just tell me I will pay. Right? Indemnity is, it is a primary thing. guarantee, it is not primary, it is secondary. If the customer does not pay, I will pay. Indemnity, I will pay. I'm not waiting till the customer to pay. That is indemnity. Then advance against corporate guarantee. Always what I have told you, whenever you are dealing with a company, only companies can give up a corporate guarantee. Whenever you are dealing with a corporate, you need to have a board resolution. Board resolution is the way of communicating with the company. Company is a legal entity. So communication mode is board resolution. Right? So on the guarantees, you need to have a board resolution passed to guarantee. Company should be re-registered. It is under the new registration, and normally corporate guarantees are of same currency because of the devaluation of rupee. Advance against life insurance, right? You can grant facilities backed by a insurer, but in that instance, we need to have the original policy. The policy has to be assigned to the bank, and the surrender value certificate should be with the bank. And premium has to be paid regularly prior to claiming on the insurance. If the customer has defaulted the premium, you can't claim. All the information has to be declared properly. Insurance policies, original policy should be there, assignment letter should be there, surrender value security certificate should be there, and the premium has to be paid properly, right? Assigno and assignee. Assigno is the bank, customer who is assigning. Assignee is the bank. It is like lessor and lessee. Assignee is the bank who is getting the benefit. So, as I told you earlier, you can mix securities. Like you can take a mortgage or stocks and land both together. But if you put it in one mortgage bond, then it creates legal complications. Therefore, you will have two different bonds for movables and immovables. So the security value, if it is a 10 million property, you have to say, okay, I am securing 8 million from the immovable bond and 2 million from the movable bond. That is called segregation of securities. So if the customer does not pay, we will have to sue the customer and get the things sorted. But under the immovable property, you can collect only up to 8 million plus interest. You can't go more than that. Though the land sold for 15 million, you can go up to 8 million plus interest, right? Movable property, you have to collect your 2 million and interest. So always better to have a larger sum for the immovable property, right? If you, even though you get your money, you can't recover because you have another bond there. Segregation of security, mixing up creates legal complication. What is insurance? It is unpredictable. It is an indemnity assurance against the uncertain and unpredictable occurrence of future calamity. Up insurance have done for future protection. Those things, okay, you can just read. This is more important. We take insurance for the value of the property or the asset, not for the value of the facility. That has to be clear. Insurance is taken for the value of the insurance value of the property. Like we have a land and building which is 20 million. Insurance value is 12 million. your proper your security your facility is only 6 million. Customers normally come and say, I took only 6 million. Why you want up to 12 million? Right? No. When you undervalue and take insurance, if you take insurance lower value, when it comes to claims, similar way, they will reduce the claim. When you don't have insurance, if the customer faces a difficulty, who is going to assist him? He loses his business, he needs to rebuild. Will the bank provide more money? No. That's why we need insurance in our lending business. Insurance types, different types, we just go through it. Pledge, lien, mortgage, we discussed. Lien and mortgages, it is merely right. Property is not with us. Only the on documents is mortgage to us. If you want, you need to go to courts and prove and break. But pledge, stocks are with us. We can sell if the customer defaulted without going to courts. Then we have two types of securities. Fixed mortgages and floating. The other one is floating mortgages. Before going there, any questions up to now? Any question? Others? All others are sleeping or what? Okay. Okay, 3 I got. Okay, thanks. So here, right. See, fixed mortgages are, we give a loan of 10 million. Oh, sorry, 60 months, gradually repaid and goes and finish it off. So we take a mortgage bond for 10 million. Your loan is 10 million, monthly basis you repay and it reduces. The value, outstanding value comes down, right? So once the repayment is finished, you can't use this mortgage for anything else. This mortgage, it is we call fixed mortgage. Fixed mortgage is only for this facility. You can't use that mortgage for any other facility, right? So that kind of mortgages are called fixed mortgages. Then we have another set of mortgage which is called floating mortgages or floating mortgages, right? Floating bonds. That is, you have a facility, you grant a facility today for 10 million, right? For 60 months. Repayment is planned like this. Finish, right? So you have a mortgage bond for 10 million, right? So somewhere around 47th month, customer comes to the bank and say, I want another facility. Now outstanding of the initial facility is only 2 billion. He has paid 8 million. So using this floating mortgage bond, you can grant a facility of 8 million without re-signing another bond. Right? Earlier, that bond is only for that facility. It gradually goes down and finish it off. But with the floating mortgage bond, prior to the last date of the initial facility, first facility, if the customer comes, even in 59th month, customer comes and say, I want another facility, outstanding is 100,000 only. So you have 9.9 million secured bond. You can give a facility up to this amount, 9.9 million. So the mortgage bond is effective. So you go on. This facility is for 24 months. 23rd month, the customer comes again. Again, you can fill up to this 10 million. At any given time, bank's exposure will be covered up to 10 million using this bond. It can be 1 facility, 2 facilities, 3, 4 facilities, that's fine, but subject to 10 million. That is called floating bonds. Earlier fixed bond, it is only for 1 facility. When the facility is over, mortgage bond completed. You can't use that for other facilities. But with the floating mortgage bonds, you can use the same mortgage bond over and over again. However, the second facility should be granted before the first facility completed. Right? Firstly, we gave a 60-month facility. 59 months, you can grant another facility up to 10 million. Whatever the remaining of the 10 million. Right? If the customer comes somewhere here, this is up 6 million, 4 million he has paid. So you can give a facility up to 4 million without signing a new bond. Right? That is called floating bond. But if he comes on 61st month and asks for a facility where the facility has been completed, you can't use the bond. Is this clear? Floating and fixed mortgages?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What about others? Two answers only. Okay, good to go. Right. I have another one point to tell you. Then we are done with securities. Primary, secondary, primary, concurrent. So primary mortgage, secondary mortgage, tertiary mortgage, like that. When a property or asset is mortgaged for the first time, it is called primary mortgage. It's like this timeline, right? 2019 new mortgage, first time, it is called primary mortgage. Yeah, Amila, I think Amila. Question is how to evaluate whether it is going to be fixed or floating. At the moment, banks normally don't use the fixed mortgages, but that mortgage type also available, right? Earlier, we used to because Inland Revenue did not allow the banks to use the floating mortgages earlier, because whenever a mortgage is signed, government gets money, stamp duty, right? But with the floating mortgages, government is not getting money. It is only one time they get money, right? So they didn't allow us. But now the Inland Revenue is silent about it, but the banks are doing it, right? So normally fixed mortgages are given for long-term facilities. Once it is finished, finish it. But earlier, floating mortgages were given for short-term, fixed mortgages were given for long-term. Now, for both facilities, we give floating mortgages. Where the facility is finished, you can use the leeway for other facility. Am I clear, Amila? Did I answer your question? Okay, thanks. Right? Primary mortgage, this is the first time mortgage, 2019. 2020, customer comes in for another facility. This land, this property has a 25 million value and primary mortgage is only for 10 million. Customer comes for another 5 million facility. So we take over the same property with, since we have enough value, you give another facility of 5 million, taking a mortgage over the same property. So land raised, you go and register your mortgage bond. So then it is a secondary mortgage. The second level, you go for another 2 million facility. Then it is 2 million here is treasury, third mortgage. Like that, first, second, third. Okay. First is the first type. If you go for legal action, if it is the same bank, there is no difference, right? Primary mortgage is with NDB, secondary is with NDB, treasury is with NDB. So it is the same bank. So you can. But if the primary is with NDB and secondary is in BOC, right? Normally bank of BOC, the second bank should take the consent of the primary bank to take a mortgage. You have the timeline. We were 2019. We had the land value 25 million for sale. Customer was given 10 million initially, right? It is only one bank. We say NDB, 10 million. This is Jan, somewhere June 2019, he wants another 5 million. March 2020, he wants another 2 million. Since, okay, we say another 5 million, we say 10 million is a floating mortgage. By this time, he has not completed up to 5 million, so you need to have a new mortgage bond. Again, the same thing. All are new mortgage bonds, right? First mortgage we call primary mortgage. Second one, secondary mortgage. Third one, treasury mortgage, right? So if it is only one bank, there is no difference because right? But if the second mortgage or this mortgage is given to another bank, BOC, we say, if this customer has defaulted BOC, they can't go straight away to courts and take legal action. Because primary mortgage, initially this was mortgage to NDB, right? BOC has gone and taken a mortgage. Can you think the attributes should not be there should not be any encumbrances. Primary mortgage, there is a owner to this land, there is a mortgage to this land. We ignored it and went and took over the land. We do that kind of things, right? But similar scenario, we can't take legal action. Bank of Ceylon can't take legal action. Bank of Ceylon have to take the permission from first party, primary mortgage holder, and go for legal action. Now they go to courts and recover only 12 million out of the land with the permission of the primary NDB. And their recovery was only 12 million. Bank of Ceylon will have to settle whatever the outstanding with NDB and to be satisfied with the left amount. They can't first recover their money. They have to first settle the primary mortgage money, then only the secondary mortgager can take money. So normally banks does not take secondary mortgages without the consent of the primary mortgage holder. Normally primary mortgage holder also does not give secondary mortgages. But many finance companies, without our knowledge, they take mortgages because they can block us and block the customer as well. So that is called primary, secondary, like which is the first mortgage, second mortgage, third mortgage, secondary, tertiary, like that. Primary concurrent mortgage is the rights are similar to primary mortgage. BOC take a primary concurrent. BOC does not want to ask NDB's permission to go to courts. If they collected 10 million, they will collect their 5 million first. Whatever remaining will be given to NDB. Same equal rights. So 100% of time banks will not allow other bank to be in these shoes. But in one instance, we allow this. Can someone tell me? I have told you last week. In which instance banks take primary concurrent mortgages with other banks? Under the products, not the last one, prior to that. Very good. Very good. Udita, Malaka, thank you. It is syndicate, loan syndication. So everyone has equal rights, right? Everyone gets the equal share based on their exposure, right? That is called primary, secondary, tertiary mortgage. Last point on your handout is what is a third party mortgage? Third party mortgage is I am the borrower. My mother gives her land as security. She does not get any benefit. She is just giving me the land since the bank wants a mortgage. That kind of a mortgage is called third party. The property does not belong to the person who is the borrower of the facility. As of now, we don't have parate rights where the bank can go and take over the property on this similar kind of mortgages. Therefore, we normally don't take third party mortgages now, right? If the borrower is a company and the property is owned by a director, again it has become third party. DACC versus Bonilla Pereira case, it has become third party. I will teach you those things later on, right? So third party. To avoid third party, what we do, we take joint borrowers. My mother has to be a joint borrower to this property, this loan. So we go and say both of them are benefited from this facility, right? That is called third party. I'll take 2 minutes. If there is any question to be answered, I'm done with the security. Any questions, or can I go to another? Okay, I want to answer to this question from the entire people online now. Answer the question, yes. 2 years I want for 2 questions. First one, if you are a credit officer in a bank, say yes. And second question is, have you done commerce or in your A level and you have an idea about P&L and balance sheet? Yes or no, no or yes, whatever. Same answer, give me 2 answers. Hurry up. Srini, I need 2 answers. Yes for the what? No and yes. Right, that's great. No.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay. Okay. Everyone didn't answer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 only answered. What about others? I want to guess where I have to pitch. I have 15 people answered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11. Only 11. 4 missing. Okay, 3 missing. Right? Okay. So I will have to take you through P&L and balance sheet both. So whoever knows about P&L and balance sheet, you need to bear with me because I'm teaching to the entire class, right? Right. So let me finish this. Security is done. So this is the today, and most probably I should be able to finish it next week, right? Financial analysis. In order to do this, everyone should know there are 3 main financial statements in a bank. This statement shows this position. These are the three statements. Balance sheet. Balance sheet is the financial position of the company, right? Think about yourself. Just forget about everything. Think about yourself, right? You have assets and liabilities, right? Since all of you are young, not like me, so you can think of your father, mother, like that. There are some assets which has a lifespan more than 12 months. House, vehicle, TVs, equipments, right? Like that. Land, building, machinery, all those things, right? We say, I'll take my example. If I consider myself, I have land, I have a building, which is my land, and building is my home. Then I have a vehicle, that is vehicles. Then I have computer, TV, AC, those things, which are my machinery and equipment. Equipments are short-lived ones, machinery are long-lived ones, right? Those things are called fixed assets, where my lifespan is more than 12 months, right? Then I have other items which can be sold and convert to cash within very short period, within 12 months period. Those are called current assets, right? I have my shirts, I have my trousers. No one will buy those things. If it is someone like Obama's or Diana's or like that, Princess Charles or something, everyone will buy, not ours, right? Okay. So shirts and trousers, which I can sell for 10 rupees and find some money, right? Those are my stocks. I have some books which I can sell for few amount of money and collect some money, cash, which can be converted to cash within a short period of time. Then I have given some money out to my friends and family, which I can collect. Those are my debtors, account receivables. Then I have some money in my bank, which is my cash in hand and bank. Then I have taken some goods on credit. I'm paying monthly basis, so I need to pay. I have taken some money from some friends. I have to pay. Those are my creditors. Then I have a small OD in my bank. All these things I need to pay within 12 months. Those are called current liabilities, right? I'm thinking about today my position, right? You have fixed assets, land, building, machinery, equipments, vehicles. Then we have something called work in progress. Work in progress is normally, if you are constructing something, uncompleted parts are called work in progress. if you are fabricating a machine, stocks brought for that fabrication is called work in progress. These items have a working life more than 12 months. Any asset which has a useful life more than 12 months is called fixed assets. Then you have current assets. Any assets which can be converted to cash within 12 months period is called current assets. Normally it is inventory, debtors or credit sales, advances and prepayments. I have given some money out, and cash. That is called current assets. Then current liabilities. Creditors. That means I have taken out goods and services I have to pay. Tax due, statutory payments, EPF, ETF due, and ODs and short-term loans. Right? That means any facility, anything we need to pay within 12 months period is called current liabilities. Right? Then right? So we can write fixed assets plus current assets minus current assets, current liabilities. This is called total assets. You take whatever you have. I told you I have a vehicle, land, building, TV and those things. Then I have my clothes and books and everything, and my cash in hand. Then I owe some money to my friends and those things, current liabilities. This is my worth. Right? This is the total assets I have. Then how did this was financed? Equity, my own money, plus long-term liabilities. Any liability which needs to be repaid over 12 months period is called long-term liability. Any liability which needs to be repaid over 12 months period is called long-term liabilities. This plus this is called total capital employed. This is the balance sheet, right? Balance sheets are prepared for a day, for a specific day. It is a snapshot of your financial position. Balance sheets are prepared for a day, right? So for me, I have worked for 22 years now. I have like built some money, that is my reserves, and I had some money from my home which was given to me. So that is my capital. Capital and reserves together called equity. And I have borrowed money from banks which needs to be paid over 5-6 years. That is called long term. So my capital employed, my own funds plus the long term borrowings, it should be equal to my assets. That's how balance sheet will be balanced, right? Funding and the assets should be balanced. That's called balancing the balance sheet. Oh, where am we? Right. Balance sheet shows the financial position of the firm, asset, liabilities, etc., and a particular date. Okay, I want to answer from the people who does not have an idea about balance sheet. Is it clear?
Clear, sir.
Okay, thank you. What about others? Because normally they give a question from this section. Almost every paper we have something. You have, as a credit person, you should have a knowledge about the P&L and balance sheet to evaluate a customer. Only two answers I got. Three. If not clear, I can repeat. I don't have issues in repeating. But what I want is your knowledge, everyone's knowledge. Right. Okay. That is the balance sheet. Then we will go to P&L. P&L. P&L is the performance, financial performance of a company. If I take myself, right, I get my salary, which is equal to the revenue or turnover of a company. Then I have my direct cost, right? In a business, direct cost is the cost which changes with the production or the turnover levels, the units you sell. Direct cost is the cost which changes with the number of units you sell. So here, direct cost can be raw material, labor, electricity. These are the main three items. For me, direct costs are my food bill, my clothing, because it is necessary to live. It can be traveling, expenses, right? This is A. Sum of this is B. Then first profit level is called gross profit, which is C equals A minus C, B, right? Gross profit is the profit after reducing the direct cost from your revenue line, right? Gross profit. If you consider gross profit, right, year on year, normally it does not change because any change in these three can be passed to the customer. Turnover equals number of units sold into price, right? Any change here will be passed to the customer through price, right? Then other section of this, you have to bear with me for little time. Right? Turnover, direct cost, then gross profit, then we have overheads, which are admin, selling, finance. Like rent, telephone, internet charges, which does not directly relate to the production, is called administrative overheads. Any expense which does not directly relate, whether you sell or not, you have to incur. Those are those are overhead costs. So admin, selling, and finance. This is day-to-day administration. This is related to sales, like vehicle maintenance, fuel for vehicles, and those things. Finance. All charges except for interest is a overhead. So after that, we have another profit level which is called PBID. That is C equals to gross profit. Sorry, gross profit C. If it is D, this one is C minus D, which is equal to E. Profit before interest and depreciation. Profit before interest and depreciation. After this, you have interest. So all interest, term loan, leases, short-term loans, all interest comes here. Then you have depreciation, allocation for wear and tear from the profits, right? Then we have the right. So we have this PBID. After PBID, you have depreciation and this. Then comes to operating profit, right? Operating profit. After PBID, you subtract interest and depreciation in it is operating profit. Then other income, any income which is okay. So you have operating profit, other income, any income which does not relate to turnover. Like I have a printing shop. Printing is my main business, but offcuts of paper which I sell, used papers I sell, those are other income, which is not related to my main operation. Any income which does not relate to my main operation is called other income. Then we go to net profit. So this is the structure of P&L. P&L shows you the performance of a company, and P&L is prepared for a specific period of time. It is not for a specific day. It is normally for a specific period of time. Maybe for 1 month, maybe for a quarter, maybe for biannually, or maybe for 12 months period. Right? So that is the financial performance of a company. Right? Again, let me know whether you got a slight idea about this. I'm asking from the people who are not familiar with P&L and balance sheets.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Others? Okay. PBID you want? Right. Margaret, just hold on. PBID, profit before interest and depreciation. That is, after the gross profit, C, you deduct all the administrative expenses, overheads, admin, selling, finance. That is called profit before interest and depreciation. Right? That is the profit line. After that, you deduct interest and depreciation. Then you come to the profit line called operating profit. That is the profit generated from operations. After that, you have other income, which is any income generated out of your main business. It is not from your main business. If you add that, you get the net profit. Right? Marga, right? Is it clear? Right. Malaka, your question. Right. Your question, tax. See, I just came to a brief one. That's why net profit came in. Otherwise, there is no something called net profit. This is, you have profit before tax. Then you have tax. You have profit after tax. Right? So without considering profit, I stopped here for the easiness. That's how net profit came in. Malaka, clear? Okay. So I will stop here. Just go through this during the next days, and we will start the normal session next week. Because in order to do the financial analysis, you need to have idea about P&L balance sheets. Right? Okay. Thank you. That's, if you don't have any question, I will stop here. Otherwise, you can ask me any question. So I take it as no questions. Thank you.